Thank you, Adelina. That was super sweet. And considering all of the amazing partners and presenters that we have in place, I will do my best to live up to that intro. So my name is Jordan Davis, and yes, I run the Davis team out of Dallas, Fort Worth. I did email you guys a workbook this morning, and Adelina, I made sure you were on there, and if you could attach that to the chat in case somebody wasn't on that email or for some reason didn't get it. But I did email you this workbook, and so let me show you real quick. If I can share screen, I can show you where I'm at, and show you what that workbook looks like. That was a whole lot. And let's see, I don't see share screen. There we go. Thank you, Adelina. So there's a couple things that we're going to go over, and one is this workbook that I sent you. Let me go real quick and get it and show you what that's going to look like. And it's a great place to take notes. I do want to just mention that it is pulled from Jordan Freed's material, which I have permission to do. However, I don't have permission to share it outside of our group. So you will have this workbook that you can print that we will be talking about today and working through your core values and even potentially getting you guys to write a 10-year letter if you're up for the challenge. But that's your workbook that you'll have to take notes. You can take notes on the back, whatever you decide to do with that. So in the meantime, let me get out of screen share. And I want to tell you a little bit about what the conversation was with me and Adelina and why we wanted to bring this to you. I coach with a man named Jordan Freed, who is fantastic. We've been coaching for 4 years together. Jordan Freed charges $2,500 a month. So if you think $1,000 a month for a forward or maps or whatever it is for coaching is expensive, I sign up and get such great value from coaching with Jordan Freed. One of the things that we did was we took all the women that he coaches with, and I just started a Facebook group and said, hey, y'all want to get together? And that literally started a movement of 25 women who get together, and Jordan Freed speaks to us and takes us through a series of exercises that work on development. So if you know me or you've known me for a hot minute, you know that I am about joy and authenticity and vulnerability. And I am all about achievements are great, but what are we experiencing along the journey? Because if it's empty, then what was the point, right? Money for the sake of money, what was the point? I watched a documentary, and it was on a child that was locked up at home, and they got a hold of the internet and listened to a Justin Bieber interview where he was talking about life and fulfillment and the meaning of life. And she was like, I struggle with that same thing too. And that was so interesting how polarizing that was, of a child who had nothing and was in an abusive home, struggled with the same things a multimillionaire does. And that just tells you we are these spiritual beings having a human experience, and a lot of our experiences are the same, whether you are rich, poor, hustling, in peace, whatever your case is. We're all going through the same human experience. And so often we spend a lot of time improving our outside self, but we don't spend much time improving our inside self. And so we are getting ready to embark on 2022 with all of these incredible goals that I trust that you set with your operator, your partner within place. And I know sometimes you set big goals and you wonder, how do I grow into be the person that it takes to achieve that? And how do I live so intentionally that everything that I'm doing is pursuing towards those goals, right? So that's why I wanted to bring you guys just a conversation about living intentionally. And what my hope and prayer is in this, I hate to say presentation, because I am here to coach, train, and teach you, and not entertain you. I don't want this to be 30, 45 minutes of entertainment and you go shut your computer, go down and go, well, that was really nice. That made me feel very good. I hope and trust that you will take the homework and spend some time on it such that you will contemplate it and work through it. And there's going to be some ahas that come out the other side that might change a little bit of the way you live or the little bit of the way you make decisions. So if that's the case, I would love to hear feedback on ahas as you go through that, not just ahas from what you got from our time together, but the work you do, the inner life work that you do, because I don't want to just coach. I don't want to just entertain you. I want to coach you. I want to train you, teach you. I want to incrementally make sure we're all getting better together, because when you get better, I get better. When I get better, you get better. Adelina gets better, right? Ben gets better. So without further ado, let's head into our material. Let's see. So this is Jordan Freed, and this is his class, My Freed Life, in which I will actually be teaching in the next 3 months. Otherwise, start from the beginning. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So, and his whole purpose is to design your life, build your business, and fuel your purpose. And I love how Freed, I coached with him even before I was a Place partner. And I love how his teaching, coaching, and mentoring comes right alongside with Place and everything we practice and everything we work on. And it's just kind of a beautiful combination that I get to experience. So this is the mountain, let's call it the mountain of life, right? The mountain of human experience. And there's a lot of emotions that you can go through. And I love this visual because it puts it on a mountain. And this quote down here says, you can only perceive and create your life from the emotion, state, or vibrational frequency that you are currently experiencing. And maybe you are somebody who currently experiences something lower on the mountain, or frequently experiences something lower on the mountain, but you desire to be higher on the mountain. Enlightenment, peace, joy, love, acceptance. Those are all things that I desire to experience as much as possible in any given day. And I try to stay within. And it all comes from your perception, right? If a problem comes to you, Chris Suarez says, we suffer from problems of abundance. Our group suffers from problems of abundance. And what an interesting concept, that the problems that you have today are the problems that you prayed for 3 years ago. Well, not really. The situation you prayed for 3 years ago, you just didn't know what problems would come with that, right? But you're not suffering from poverty, hunger, right? Or whatever comes with that. You suffer from a contract that's falling apart, too many clients to show at one time. We suffer from things of abundance, and we can still live in stress, fear, anxiety, or we can make a choice to accept the fact that we are suffering from problems of abundance, and this is what we prayed for, and these problems come as a consequence of our experience for this new life we desired, and then actually find joy when the problems come our way, because it means that we are performing at this higher level that we once desired. So this is the mountain, and we're going to talk about this in just in a little bit. Somebody, there we go. Somebody was unmuted. So Jordan Freed says that there are 3 P's. These are his 3 P's. Performance, your performance equals your potential minus your interference. I was listening to an Oprah podcast, and she said, and I found this profound, and I think I shared it with people who probably didn't find it near as profound as I did, that she believes in the oak tree that is possible in every acorn, the potential of an oak tree in every acorn. And I just found that baffling. In every acorn, there is a potential for an oak tree, right? And so not all make it, not all live up to their potential. And I think I'm kind of obsessed, and one of my biggest fears when we were going through Gary Keller, when he asked us those 10 questions, was not living up to my potential, right? But think about an acorn and the size of that acorn and the potential of an oak tree that's like 4,000 times the size of an acorn, right? And that's amazing. And Oprah's like, I literally see the oak tree potential in every single acorn. And I thought, wow, as a leader, that's really profound. So your performance is all of your potential minus your interference. So what is the interference of the acorn that keeps it from becoming that oak tree, right? What is your interference that keeps you from living out your potential? What is your mindset? What is your attitude? What is your concept of when challenges come up? Is this frustrating and stressful and I wish everything would just go my way? Or is this an ability or an opportunity to learn and grow and become a better version of yourself, a better realtor, a better friend, a better spouse, right? What are you seeing problems as? So our performance is driven by the relationship we have with possibility. Well, how do you have possibility? That probably comes from how you were programmed, right? Like Adelina, you grew up in a house and I grew up in a house, and we no doubt had very similar experiences growing up, and we no doubt had very different experiences growing up. And your parents spoke to you different than my parents spoke to me, right? And so a lot of that comes from nature, which nature is, I am a human, I have feet, I do not have wings. So I do not believe that I can walk out of here and go fly, right? That is natural, normal. That is my mindset based on my human experience. But then you also have nurture. And in nurture, that is what you were brought up with. As a psychology major, we talk a lot about nature versus nurture. I never thought I would use that degree, but turns out real estate is it. And so we talk a lot about nature versus nurture, and nurture is everything you were brought up with. We all start as this blank slate, and then we are nurtured into who we become, right? And so some of our natural personality comes out, and some happens based on your life experience. For example, if you got up to speak in front of 30 people and you totally bombed for the rest of your life, you would say, I'm not a good public speaker. That is probably nurture from an experience and your interpretation of it. So some of it is conscious. I choose that. And some of it is unconscious. I don't choose that. I have my mother's mannerisms. I don't choose those, right? That's unconscious learning. And so that all comes from our programming. And so there are three things that it comes to when you want to change your programming. So if programming is going to affect my relationship with possibilities, and possibilities are going to affect my relationship with my performance because of interference, then how do I change my programming, right? Don't leave me and just say, well, that's it. That's how you're going to be forever. There's nowhere to go, right? How do I change my programming and make it so that I can have my desired life? Three things. The first is you have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge the problem. You have to acknowledge your challenge. You have to acknowledge this is where I came from and this is why I think the way I think, right? I tend to naturally think in scarcity. I grew up poor in Oklahoma, right? So I naturally think in scarcity, and that is my go-to. That is my self-preservation, but it's not my desired state. I desire to think in abundance. I desire to live in abundance. I desire to experience challenges with joy because they're challenges that are brought from abundance, which is what I desire. So if I desire this thing, I also desire the negative that comes with it, right? You have to, otherwise you don't really desire it. And then accepting it. So you can sit here all day long and you can play the blame game. And honestly, some of you probably have life stories that nobody would blame you. It was hard. It wasn't fair. Something happened that got in the way. You weren't given equal opportunities. You can sit here and you can take the blame, or you can say, you know what? I had a portion to play in that, and I'm going to accept my portion because it's more important that I move beyond it. Right? So maybe I didn't have a great relationship with my mom. Maybe she was very condescending about my outward appearance. Maybe she treated my brothers different. Maybe I did get in trouble in class and it wasn't me, it was somebody else. Whatever your experience was, you can stand in victimhood or you can stand in victor and be a victor, right? And in that, so you have to take acceptance and let that go. Give yourself permission to let that go. So acknowledge that it's happening, accept it, and say, that's me. At some point, I can't keep blaming the fact that I grew up without much for my scarcity mindset. At some point, I have to say, I have to accept and say, this was my part in it, and this is my part in continuing that negative thought pattern. And then get into action and figure out, who do I need to be? Where do I need to be? Who do I need to be around? Because we become the average of the 5 people that we hang around with. Gary Keller had a shirt that says your network determines your net worth, right? So if you are hanging out with 5 poor people, guess what? Guess where you're headed, right? You're the one person pulling all of them up. Is that really where you want to be? Or do you want to be with people that are winning, that are changing, that are making an impact on the world? Like, what is your desire? And go get around those people. So getting into action, what books do I need to read? Ben reads 100 books every time he wants to learn something. He finds 100 books on the subject, anywhere from when he wanted to learn about money, he literally started with, how is money printed? Where did money come from, right? He reads 100 books on money to educate himself. Do we take that kind of action and acceptance that this is mine to own, that this is who I want to become? So as you're setting out your 2022 plans and you're figuring out who it is that you want to be in that time, it's your job to take that action. Your operator can't do it for you. I can't read a book for you. I can give you a book. I can have a book club where we discuss the book. I can't physically read for you. You're gonna have to do the work yourself and get into action. So if you want to change your programming, it's entirely up to you. We're here to support you, but you're going to have to do the work. So as I go to make decisions, whether it be, do I want to serve on this committee? Do I want to commit to this? What's worth my time? As you become more and more successful, like when you start in real estate, you have all the time and no money, right? And then that really switches and you have all the money and no time. And so you start paying for your time back, right? And there are different things that you are asked to maybe serve on. And at first it's very complimentary. They want me to serve. They want me to do this. They want me to run this. They want me to do that. But then you kind of get overwhelmed and your core things start to fall apart, right? And the things that got you that opportunity are no longer the things that are working because you're distracted. And not all distractions are bad. Some distractions are good. Some committees you can volunteer on are good. I'm choosing next year not to be on ALC because it doesn't align with my core values and where I'm going. So when I talk about core values, Brene Brown in Dare to Lead has core values lined out in her book, and she challenges you to take some time, and you have this on your worksheet, and circle every core value that you believe you have, desire, just that you want to become, right? And so my challenge to you, and one of your homework assignments, is to take these core values, circle all of them that apply to you, that you love, and hopefully you don't have more than 50% because we're going to cut it down to 5. Hopefully you don't have more than 10%, right? Because we're going to have to cut down. For example, authenticity and vulnerability are 2 core values for me. However, in being authentic, I have to be vulnerable. So I cut vulnerability and leaned into authenticity as one of my keywords. And then what I want you to do is, we're getting feedback, somebody. There we go. So what I want you to do is go from all of these down to 5. Does that make sense? Any questions on that as you go through this? And this was provided. If it wasn't provided, Adelina has it. You can reach out to her, reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide it, the workbook. So I want you to get down to 5. Then I've given you this worksheet, the Wheel of Life. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put your 5 core values in here, and you're going to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Uh-oh. I do have mine. So I can show you what that looked like for me and what that looked like for crossing it out as I worked through this workbook. I've gotten really clear. I've done this exercise 3 or 4 times. So I gotten down to the point where I only circled about 10 words. Oh, you guys can't see that. Hang on. Let me stop my share. I'm little. Okay, so I got down to the point where I only got like 10 words that were core who I want to be and what are the things that I want on my wheel of life, on my circle. And then what I did is I put them over here. And you know, it's funny, I was talking to Bart, our recruiter on our team, and he said, I said, health is one of my 5. And he said, I really wish health were in my top 5. It's just not. And I said, well, after having a knee injury, I realized I can't do anything else if I'm not healthy. Everything else is for naught. Everything else, almost everything else that I do becomes obsolete if my knees aren't good, right? I physically cannot walk to go accomplish what I desire to accomplish. And so I need my health. I need to feel good. I can't grow. I can't have abundance. I can't review a contract if my head is foggy, if I just don't feel good. So health has become an integral part for me, but that comes from I had an issue with my health, right? And part of that was I had to go through the 3 A's, right? I had to acknowledge that there was a problem. I had to accept that I had some ownership in this knee problem that I had, and I had to take action to get better, or I was going to continually have knee problems for the rest of my life, right? So there were 3 things when I wanted to change where I was. So here are mine. My 5 words are health, growth, peace, wholeheartedness. Actually, I said that I had vulnerability and authenticity, but I forgot I chose wholeheartedness, because to me, that was being authentic and vulnerable, was leaning in and loving with my whole heart at all times. And you know what, guys, sometimes for me, that means that I get burnt, and that's painful. But I've accepted that the wholeheartedness, the positive and the joy and the experiences that I have from wholeheartedness and the experiences that others have when I help them grow wholeheartedly and I don't hold anything back, overshadows the bad of when I get burnt. And so that was my decision. So that's become one of my keywords. Instead of vulnerability, instead of authenticity, I leaned into wholeheartedness this year and abundance. So those are my 5 words. And I would encourage you, if nothing else, for what I'm going to talk to you about how to live intentionally in 2022, that you would lean in and find your core values. I used to have a sticky note and I set my core values beside my computer. And anytime an opportunity came up, I was like, is that, and at the time it was joy, vulnerability, courage, peace, and legacy. Is that one of those 5 things? And if the answer was no, then I said, you know what? I appreciate this opportunity so much. I'm so honored that you would think of me. And that doesn't, or I have a lot of conflicts at this time and I don't feel like I would fully serve that opportunity. So that was my best way of saying no. We talked about at Amplify, the women's retreat, how to help women say no, right? Because we're challenged with that and we tend to say yes to everything. And so for me, it was, I can't give that my full attention. And therefore I don't feel like I would do it justice like somebody else who's really passionate and can give it more attention would. And that's because it wasn't in my core 5 traits. So determine your core values. And then as you go into 2022 and you want to live wholeheartedly into those core values, put them down somewhere and measure the things you say yes to against those. And if family is one of them, guys, sometimes that means saying no to work. Because you will say yes to people that you would never invite over for Thanksgiving, meanwhile telling your family no. So if that's who you want to be, put that on your desk, lean into it, and choose those experiences that go towards that. Let me see, let me go back to share screen. So get in those wheel of life. For me, peace was like a 5, health was like a 3. Honestly, I've sacrificed my health for growth this year. And that was like a 3. So I made a commitment. Remember that, take action. I'm getting a board printed that has 150 workouts for next year. It'll go in my workout room. And just like we have our closing board, I will have a workout board that I go and plug it in. And now all of you can keep me accountable because you all know about it, right? And so those are ways that I'm taking action to lean into that and create my preferred future.
Hey, Jordan. We have a quick question, which goes exactly right here. Where Sharon in Austin asked, as you worked through these values, how do you manage, or how do you expect to manage expectations with those around you, like your team, your family, etc.? Like, do you have any coaching for us on how to manage the expectations with the new values that are important to you?
I think this goes back to my value of full-heartedness, right? Like, I think bringing the people that you care about, that care about you, into the conversation of what experience you're going through right now and what your desired outcome is. So we do that with vision boards. We share like what we want for next year. And when they know what you desire and you put it out there and communicate with the people who are around you and they want what's best for you. And ultimately, if you, almost like we talk about with clients, if you tell them, if you do these next steps, this is how it will benefit you, like what's in it for me. So if you tell the people around you what's in it for them, then I think they will not only respect your boundaries, your time, your what you're creating, but also they'll hold you accountable to it because they want what's in it for them out of that. So bringing them into the conversation of the experience that you're having and what it is that you're looking to create, what you desire. And I think you will find that they will actually hold you to it more than you will. In fact, 3 years ago, we did vision boards. I put this gazebo with a pool or fire pit on my vision board. And we ended up looking at the new house that we actually live in. And it took Valencia on my team pointing out, that looks just like what's on your vision board, for me to realize that what I was already envisioning was coming into reality a month or two after I put it on my vision board. But it took somebody else pointing it out to me for me to remember, because I get so caught up in the day. So the people that you love will engage with you and will remind you of those things. She also had a goal to buy a home, and it was November, almost creeping into December. And I was like, why haven't you bought a home? What's going on? That was on your vision board. That was important to you. And I will tell you, we closed on a home for her before the end of December that year. And we held her more to that than she was willing. She's like, you know what? It'll just be next year. And I was like hell, it'll be this year. This is happening, right? And so people you love will, when they know what's in it for them and they care about you, they'll hold you to that and they'll help you create that environment. Does that make sense, Sharon? Good.
I think we're good. She said, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. So the next thing I want to go into is, if you go, wow, all these things are great. However, and like everybody hears about a big why and a mission statement and passions and all of that. So here are 3 questions if you want to help get through yours. who in the world do you want to help the most? This is another way people develop their mission or their vision or their values. Who in the world do you want to help the most? Maybe you're clear on that. Maybe rather than selfishly, these are the values I stand for, maybe you're more about who do I want to help out in the world? And that drives you more. And that's okay. Here's 3 questions for you. What problem do I want to help them solve? Maybe it's homeownership. Maybe it's building wealth through homeownership. Maybe it's your people. Maybe, there's a lot of ways that this could go. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's, I need finances to help my kids fund college so they're not left with college debt when they get out. What do you feel when you help the people solve that problem? Those people solve that problem. So who do you want to help? What is their problem? And how do you feel when you help them solve them? Or, you know what? A lot of people don't know what they want, but they can sure tell you what they don't want, what they don't like, don't want, how they don't want to be treated. So at the bottom is reverse engineer it. What do I not want? What I don't want. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to go hungry. I don't want to fight with my family. I don't want joint vacations that I have to go to mom, then dad, then Matt's mom, then Matt's dad. Like, I don't want that. I don't want chaos. I don't want my kids to be raised in the same environment where it's, mom versus dad, or for them, grandma versus grandpa, right? I know what I don't want. So you can start to get really clear on what you want when you define what you really don't want. A lot of people get clarity there. So what's the opposite of that? Peace, harmony. What are some of our words that go towards that? Honesty, inclusion, right? So whatever it is that you don't want, you can define what's the opposite of that. And what are those core values going back here that are the opposite of what you currently experience that you don't want to experience? That's another way to open up and get to your core values. So maybe these 3 questions help you. They're in your workbook if you want to work it that way, right? And then ultimately, in BOLD, if you guys have gone through BOLD, we write a letter to ourselves in a year. And how many of you have done that and gotten your letter back and been amazed? And maybe it didn't happen in a year, it happened in 2 or 3 years. And you're like, oh my gosh, it really happened, right? I see some hands of people who are like, yeah, I went through that. And I got my letter a year later and I couldn't believe, and I almost forgot all the things that I desired and intended actually did come to fruition, even though they weren't in front of me, because I put that out into reality. So Jordan Freed's challenge for us is actually to write a 10-year letter. And that seems really hard until you start hearing other people's 10-year letters and you're like, okay. And you start hearing like, I want that, I want that. And I sat in a room of 25 women who all read their 10-year letter. And like, honestly, you probably couldn't even hear us through like the crying of what our desired future would be, especially when we got to our children. But I was like, I want that too. And I'm like typing in my letter, like, I want to hear that too. So maybe this is something you want to do with your team, because you may realize you want something that you didn't know you want. Not saying you want to steal from people or have envy or whatever. You just haven't really thought in that direction. And that's something that you want. Well, I'll tell you, I spent a few hours on my 10-year letter. And when I came, after I read that, I got so clear on what are my day-to-day tasks. I came back from my retreat. I got in my day-to-day tasks and I was like, why am I doing this? This has nothing to do with who I intend to be in 10 years. Why am I wasting time? Because in 10 years, you can set goals that are so massive that you really do have to change who you are to become that, or become the better version of who you are to become that. And that got me crystal clear on where am I spending my time and why? Why am I like, I don't even want to go to our broker Christmas party. I have no desire. Like it would take another day of being home with my family. And when I get to choose Gary Keller's mastermind or go to my broker Christmas party, like it's a no-brainer, but I can't do both because a core value, one of my core things is my family and my time and to be at peace and all of that. But here's the thing, if you say yes to everything, then when cool things come up, you got to say no, right? And one of my new quotes that used to be on my phone up until I got our new family pictures was, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So Gary Keller's mastermind is a hell yes, clear my schedule, let's make it happen. But a Christmas party that caused me to be with my family when I was already away from my family for that, because I was out of town, is a no, because it's not a hell yes, right? And so getting clear about who you want to be. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself as you go to orchestrate your 10-year letter. And I'm going to wholeheartedly, vulnerably read you mine. And I would love to get yours back. You have my email. I just sent you this workbook. I would love to get yours back. It's jordan@yourdavisteam.com if you don't have it, and Adelina can provide it. But I want to know, like, write in your letter, and maybe it's family, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's, and then you start to get really clear on what has to change in order to have that. So the moment that I realized that my kids were going to be 19 and 17 in my letter is when I had like a meltdown. So if we can make it through that first paragraph, we'll make it through without tears. But I do want to share mine with you, and I encourage you to share them together. So without further ado, and then write your 10-year letter and come back and share it, because I don't want this to just have been entertaining, guys. I hope and pray that this was valuable and you're making changes to be more intentional in your in your life in 2022 and lean into that intentional living. I can't see over the sidebar so that I have right here. So let me minimize this. There we go. That helps. Okay. Where will I be in 10 years? Matt and I are both 46. Aiden is 19 and Carson is 17. Aiden is away at college and we cherish his visits. There it is. We cherish his visits home tremendously. The STEM program that we sacrificed for has set him up perfectly for continuing education and a great life. We are loving this one-on-one time with Carson Asher. He's an athlete and super social, so he keeps us on our toes. If only he focused a little more on school than on girls. I can't complain. Both are happy, healthy, and independent, knowing fully that we love them dearly. Matt has married his passion for wealth building with his ability to simplify financial information into bite-sized chunks and has created a class in our community. He is seriously changing lives and people's financial freedom. He loves work and is content, but never satisfied. He's always tinkering to fix a system or process. We are still best friends and madly in love. He still adores me, and I still adore being adored. The Davis team is great and highly profitable. We are building wealth and investing together. We are no longer recruiting. Talent is showing up, kicking down the door. We have 4 generations of leaders on the team. I have the opportunity to lead the first generation of leaders, and they lead the other generations. I'm thrilled when I get the opportunity to go to work and coach and encourage them and meet with my other police partners. The team is simple, efficient, effective, family-like, and it fosters a culture of healthy work-life balance. We are contributing to the wealth building of our team, our clients, and the community. I find joy and security in my partnership with Ben, and the opportunities are abundant. It's almost Thanksgiving, and we're prepping to feed 800 families in need over the Thanksgiving holiday, as well as equip them with gift cards for Toys for Christmas. We have a 501c3 that funds this initiative for needy families across our county. 10 years ago, we started with 8 families. Now it's 800 that won't go hungry at Thanksgiving, and their kids won't have to go without presents on Christmas morning. It is my absolute favorite time of year. I'm a public speaker, encouraging others to live and love joyfully along their journey. I contribute passionately and wholeheartedly to those in my world. Matt and I use this opportunity to travel the world, meeting incredible people and seeing magical places, sometimes with the boys in tow. Matt and I are both in great shape. Our bodies are whole and healthy. We exercise together 5 times per week, and of course, we make it a competition. I have the most beautiful friendships that I cherish deeply. We are vulnerable and authentic. We practice every day on living wholeheartedly. We still gather together twice a year to work on self-improvement and stay up way too late, strengthening bonds, drinking, and figuring shit out. I don't mind getting on a plane to see my closest friends. Matt and I have $7 million in net worth. We have 3 vacation investments that are income producing, and we let friends, the team, and family borrow them frequently. We also organize small, intimate retreats at them, which are safe havens to help others and ourselves continue to learn and grow. Life, love, money, health, and self-care are all abundant in my world, and I utilize those tools to bless the lives of those around me. So let me get out of my teary eyes. So my hope today is that this time has been valuable and worthwhile, and these worksheets are helpful, and that you would go, and even if you don't have your core values defined, that you would take a baby step and go define those core values. If you don't have a mission for where you're going or who you need to be in order to become what you have set as your goals for 2022, that you would create a plan and work with your partner or operator in creating, whoever your leader is, in creating a plan, and then start building what that would look like for it. And then if you're courageous enough that you would write yourself a 10-year letter or a 3-year letter, right? And you would set big goals, and then you would start looking at, what do I do every day? And is that really adding to or taking away where I want to be? Because we can live a life by design, or we can accidentally end up in 10 years where we didn't intend to be and go, wow, that was really a waste. Either way, the time's going to go by. So thanks, guys, for having me.
Does anybody have any ahas? That was really good, Jordan. That was You got into like the third sentence and I was already crying. So it doesn't take much apparently for us. Anybody have any ahas from this? Brandon, yes, sir.
So one of the things that you've shared, Adelina, and I think Jordan and you and Jordan probably heard this in Gary's mastermind, if I'm not mistaken, but clear is kind. We've talked about that. I don't remember who said that.
Yeah.
But, it's a lot of times in leadership, we talk about clear is kind with, our business partners. But I like how unapologetic you are about being clear with everybody, right? So when you're setting up these pillars in your life, whether it's business or work or, 10 years down the road, you're setting this clarity, not only with yourself, but with the people around you, to include your family, your business partners, the community, and even setting up clear plans for people you haven't even met yet. So it's a bigger, clear way to look at things. So I appreciate the perspective.
That's awesome.
And just because I don't know you that well yet, Jordan, outside of like Zoom meetings and stuff, but I would imagine that you'll do most of that stuff in less than 10 years. There's no, just watching you work. Yeah, you probably, but it's really, thank you for the perspective.
Thank you.
Jaime.
Hey, Jordan, that was awesome. My train the presenter buddy, or train the trainer advanced buddy, way back when. What really hit home with me is breaking it down. What do I not want? And then reversing it. And the way you said it, like even things that I think sometimes it would be offended, like, the way you brought up like split, splitting time and having, because I have that. I have, my parents are divorced, and I see that, and it's so different. And hearing that, it hits home for me. And then the last thing, because I know we have a lot of agents that are in the first year, second year in the business. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And how many of us in our first 2 years of business would not give up I remember showing houses on Mother's Day and saying, Mom, I'm going to get you a great gift on Mother's Day, or, when I close this house, and we never closed. Right. So thank you for bringing that to life for us, because that is going to change lives.
She'll be gone someday. It's not worth it.
That's right.
Well said. Well said. Rob?
Well, Jaime hit a little bit on it. The thing that I liked was, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And that's something that I need to take to heart going into next year. The other thing that I really appreciated, Jordan, was when you had said, kind of put your dreams out there and be willing to share them. One of the things in your letter was talking about getting together with friends as a retreat, and then thinking about or having somebody come in and helping you and the people that you love most in the world be able to plan your lives together. Was I would have never thought to do something like that, but it just went off like an explosion in my mind, thinking that is exactly what I want to do with the people that I love the most, and with my closest friends group. They would be all for it. So thank you so much.
Waiting for permission or hoping somebody else like creates a retreat or creates that experience. Go create it. You don't need anybody's permission. You need like 3 people to say yes, and you'll have the best time of your life. It's an amazing experience. And we have 4 a year now. I have 2 groups, one with Amplify and one with my Jordan Freed Grit and Grace group. And it's Rob, it's an amazing experience. Just don't wait for somebody else to put it together. Like you have my permission. If you're waiting for permission, you have my permission, right? Go do it. It's an amazing experience. I want to touch back on Jaime. You talked about family. So that's my mom there, and that's my dad there. Divorced 30 years, didn't speak for 30 years. And at the point where I was pregnant with my son, I just said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing the joint. I'm just not doing it anymore. So we're all going to figure it out, or nobody will be invited. I just won't do it anymore. And we take joint family vacations twice a year now. My mom and my dad and my stepmom and my stepdad, they've all been happily married for 30 years. And I just said, the buck stops here. I think so often we feel like we have to sit in our circumstances, or like what Rob was saying, like we're waiting for that permission to do that big thing, or just hearing somebody else talk about it. You're like, I'm inspired, let's go. And you have the ability to change your world. You have the ability to change other people's worlds. It's about your relationship with possibilities. And all you have to do is hear that it is possible and that somebody else is doing it. And suddenly you have the roadmap. You have the idea. It sparks. Like your brain cannot conceive something that can't happen. if your brain can conceive it, there is a chance it can happen. You just need that right inspiration.
I love that. Who else is more excited about life now than they were 45 minutes ago? Anybody? All right, Jordan, you did your job. I love that. Now, take up Jordan on the challenge that she gave us was do the workbook, because all of this is inspirational, entertaining even.
Yep.
And yet, if we don't do anything with it, kind of pointless. I love, thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing, Jordan. That was awesome. You guys know where to find Jordan. If you hit a roadblock while you're doing this and you don't know, like, God, like, why did this seem so easy for Jordan? And why is it not easy for me? You know where to find her. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. Her contact information is in the place roster. She emailed us this morning. Like, don't.
Facebook group, Real Estate Plus Real Life, where I share stuff like this, super vulnerable. I just commit to doing it. I think yesterday, those 10 questions that Gary Keller asked, I put my answers to them in my post. So real estate, and there's a plus sign, real life, you can follow there, but also get together in a group. Like, you just never know, if you heard Adelina's, it would inspire something that you wanted, right? Like, I didn't grow up thinking I would have investment properties, but then I heard other people had them and I was like, I want to do that. That's brilliant. Like, that doesn't mean I copied them. That doesn't mean I'm envious of them. That just means I didn't have that relationship with that possibility, and now I do.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. There's so many of you guys on today. It was amazing hanging out with you guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jordan. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan.